Imagine reading, like, a meditation guide that suddenly tells you to treat academic experts like well chamber pots.
Right, just totally dismissing them.
Exactly. And then it tells you to abandon your family entirely and actively dare the government to torture you.
Yeah, it's not exactly your typical weekend yoga retreat reading.
No, definitely not. Today, we're opening a document that takes the conventional idea of, finding your inner peace, lights it completely on fire, and just throws it straight through the window of state authority.
It's incredibly intense.
It really is. So welcome to this deep dive. We're looking at a fiercely provocative manifesto written by an author named Sufing. This was published on July 25, 2025, and it's titled, "A Practitioner Does Not Kneel, Does Not Become a Slave."
What's fascinating here is how the text completely redefines what it means to be a slave versus what it means to be a human. And it does this entirely through the lens of spiritual practice. I mean, the author isn't referring to historical or economic slavery in the way we typically study it.
Yeah, it's not about literal physical chains in that sense.
Exactly. They're describing an existential, psychological state of being, where submission to any earthly authority fundamentally degrades the human soul.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission today is to dissect exactly how this document blurs the line between a personal spiritual guidebook and basically a radical political rebellion.
Because it really does blur that line.
Oh, absolutely. When you read this, it becomes clear very quickly that this isn't about deep breathing exercises.
Yeah.
Shui Feng is laying out a comprehensive ideology that treats the spiritual pursuit of paradise and the political rejection of government oppression as the exact same struggle.
And to really understand the nature of this rebellion, we first have to look at the ultimate goal of the practitioner.
Right. What is the actual end game here?
Well, the text uses the word practice constantly, right?
Yeah.
But it operates on a very specific, uncompromising hierarchy. The author states that the primary objective of any practice is to, quote, elevate the level of our life.
And we should point out, in the source material, the word life is written in all capital letters.
Yeah, that capitalization is key. It signals that we are talking about the metaphysical essence of a person, not just their day-to-day biological existence.
It's like life with a capital L is your soul's entire resume, basically.
Exactly. And that hierarchy you mentioned, it's broken down into three very distinct tiers. At the very bottom, Shu Feng places the slave.
Right, the lowest tier.
According to the text, a slave practices simply to survive and hopefully attain some basic human dignity.
So their entire spiritual horizon is just well limited to not being a slave anymore.
Exactly. They are trapped entirely in the physical struggle.
Then moving one step up from the slave, you have the human.
Yeah, and the text defines a human as someone who practices to break free from the cycle of reincarnation in what the author calls the lower life spaces.
Lower life spaces. That sounds a bit grim.
It is. They basically recognize that the physical world is a boundless sea of suffering, so their goal is to escape that cycle. But even that isn't the final destination in Shui Feng's framework.
Right, the ultimate endgame, the very top of the hierarchy, is to become an immortal, or a Buddha.
Yes.
The practitioner's true trajectory is aimed at these specific celestial paradises. The text actually names them as the Elysium world and the Celestial Islands continent.
Celestial Islands continent, it's very descriptive.
It is. And, it makes me think about those locked escape room games you might play on a weekend.
Oh, right, where you have an hour to figure out the clues.
Yeah, exactly. But usually in our daily routines,
Yeah.
we are just trying to make the locked room more comfortable.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Like, we buy a softer couch, we try to get better lighting, we hang a nice painting on the wall of our little locked room.
We download, productivity apps to optimize our stress.
Exactly. We are just trying to be comfortable prisoners.
And the danger of making the escape room comfortable is that it actually rewires your brain to forget there is a door at all.
Wow. Yeah, that's spot on.
When you accept the walls as a given, you just stop looking for a way out. So Shu Feng's concept of moving from the realm of necessity, which is that daily grind of survival, to the kingdom of freedom, requires a total psychological break from that room.
You aren't trying to optimize the space, you are trying to blow the doors completely off the hinges.
Beautifully put. Spiritual practice in this context isn't a coping mechanism for daily life. It is a hostile exit strategy from reality as we know it.
Which is an incredibly disruptive way to view the world. Because if your ultimate goal is to blow the doors off the hinges and reach this Celestial Islands continent, you have to ask yourself, What is currently keeping me locked in the room?
Right. What are the chains?
And according to Zhu Feng, the answer is absolutely everything around you.
The text demands the casting off of all chains. The author argues that earthly attachments biologically and spiritually tether us to those lower life spaces.
They weigh us down.
Exactly. To achieve this celestial upgrade in life, the practitioner has to undergo a radical, absolute detachment from the physical and social world.
And the phrasing used to describe this detachment is just intense. I mean, the author writes, if the flesh binds me, I abandon the flesh.
Which is heavy right from the start.
Very. If friends bind me, I let go of friendship. And then it cuts even closer to home. He says, if family binds me, I am no longer family.
It's a ruthless pruning of any relationship or physical reality that anchors you to the earthly realm.
It really forces you to look at human connection through this purely utilitarian spiritual lens, doesn't it?
It does. If a relationship elevates your soul, it has value. But the moment a relationship demands submission or imposes like an earthly expectation that distracts you from your spiritual path.
Becomes a chain.
Exactly. It transforms from a bond into a chain. And this radical detachment extends far beyond just personal relationships. It aggressively targets intellectual and spiritual authorities as well.
Okay, yes, this brings us to some of the most striking imagery in the entire manifesto.
The chamber pots.
Yes. Zhu Feng writes, if experts and professors bind me, I treat them like chamber pots.
Just brutal.
And then going after spiritual leaders, the text says, if masters and guides bind me, then to hell with your so-called masters and guides.
Which is a huge statement.
Right. Think about the insult of a chamber pot. It's an object you use in secret, purely out of base biological necessity, and then you quickly hide it away because it's disgusting.
Right. You don't display it on the mantelpiece.
No. Applying that metaphor to highly educated academics is a profound degradation of human intellect.
And it is incredibly subversive, especially for a spiritual document. I mean, in most traditions, a spiritual text elevates the master or the guru as the ultimate, unquestionable authority.
Yeah, you're supposed to follow the guru blindly.
But Zhu Feng is telling the practitioner to discard the teacher the second the teacher becomes a limitation. The pursuit of the Elysium world supersedes loyalty to any human guide.
I have to challenge this underlying logic, though.
Okay, let's hear it.
Let's look at what is actually being advocated here in practice. Leaving your family behind, casting aside your friends, treating educated experts like plumbing fixtures. Does that truly lead to an enlightened state?
It sounds harsh.
To claim, I need absolutely no one and nothing, sounds incredibly isolating. It borders on sheer narcissism, doesn't it?
This raises an important question about the nature of absolute freedom and how we measure it. From a conventional societal standpoint, this behavior is deeply antisocial and isolating.
Totally.
But within the internal architecture of Zhu Feng's philosophy, this isolation is a required test. The author is stripping away every single earthly anchor to prove a singular allegiance. The text explicitly states that a true practitioner submits only to the Buddha, to the greatest creator, to the Tao, and to the laws of the universe.
The invisible cosmic laws.
Essentially, yes. If you submit to a human, whether that's a parent demanding you follow a certain career path, a professor demanding you accept a specific theory, or a guru demanding absolute obedience.
You are submitting to a lower life form.
Exactly. You are bowing to a lower life form. You are voluntarily tying yourself back to the furniture inside the escape room. Submitting only to the universe ensures that no human being can ever claim ownership over your spiritual trajectory.
Because if your destination is the Celestial Islands continent, you cannot allow yourself to be tethered by earthly expectations.
Right.
But, this extreme personal detachment doesn't just stay in the realm of family and gurus. Once you have mentally dismantled the authority of your parents and your teachers, there is only one final, ultimate earthly authority left standing in your way.
And that brings us to the document's sharpest, most dangerous critique.
The collision of the practitioner and the state.
When we examine the architecture of Zhu Feng's political philosophy here, we are looking at a stark, unapologetic challenge to sovereign power. And to be clear, we are analyzing the text as an objective framework here, just focusing on how the author logically justifies defying a sovereign government.
Right, we're not taking sides, just looking at what's on the page. And the words on the page address the state directly. Zhu Feng writes, if the state binds me, what use do I have for your state?
He asks it right out in the open.
Yeah, he says, so why are you binding the people? And then the text lays out this fascinating binary legal rule that governs the relationship between the individual and the government.
It's a very specific dynamic.
For the people, the rule is, what is not forbidden by law is permitted. But for the government, the rule flips entirely. What is not authorized by law is forbidden.
It's a very clean distillation of constitutional theory. It specifically highlights negative liberty for the citizen versus positive restriction for the state.
Could you break that down a bit more?
Sure. The individual inherently possesses boundless freedom until they hit a specific agreed-upon legal wall. The state, on the other hand, possesses zero inherent power. It only gains power when a specific capability is explicitly granted to it by the people.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Think of the law as a giant playground sandbox.
I like this analogy.
For you, the citizen, the practitioner, you can play anywhere inside that sandbox. You can build sandcastles, dig trenches, run around. You have total freedom of action as long as you don't step over the outer wooden boundary of the box.
Right, staying inside the box.
Exactly. That boundary represents what is forbidden by law.
Yeah.
Everything inside is permitted.
And in this framework, the government's position is radically different. The government isn't playing inside the sandbox with you.
Where are they?
They are standing on the grass entirely outside of it. They cannot enter the sandbox, they cannot touch the sand, and they cannot interact with the citizens unless the people explicitly hand them a written invitation.
An invitation that says, like, you are authorized to step into this specific corner of the box.
Right, to help us manage this specific issue. If they do not have that explicit authorization, any action they take is completely forbidden.
Wow. So when governments ignore this dynamic, when they just jump into the sandbox uninvited, ignoring the Constitution and oppressing people at will, Shuofeng argues they completely lose their legitimacy.
They do.
The text actually refers to an oppressive government as a, quote, machine of suffering, injustice, and tragedy.
And this is where the political theory merges permanently with the spiritual mission. Shuofeng states that kneeling before a machine of suffering means you are voluntarily choosing to become a slave.
And as the title of the manifesto declares, practitioners do not kneel.
Exactly. The refusal to submit isn't just an act of political defiance, it is a rigid spiritual necessity. You cannot achieve freedom in the universe if you are actively consenting to be a slave to the state on earth.
Which places a massive, dangerous burden on the practitioner. Because when you outright refuse to recognize the state's authority, when you effectively tell the sovereign government that their authority means absolutely nothing to you.
Conflict is inevitable.
Right. The state survives by maintaining a monopoly on violence. It uses the threat of force to ensure compliance. So how does a lone spiritual practitioner face down the ultimate threat of state violence?
Well, the author neutralizes the threat by completely dismantling the psychological fear of death.
How so?
The state relies on the assumption that its citizens value biological survival above all else. But Shuofeng actively taunts the oppressors, writing, "If I do not kneel and do not become a slave, what can you do to me? At most, detain me, torture me, kill me."
Wow. It's a staggering dismissal of the ultimate leverage a government holds.
It really is.
He tells the oppressors that they have absolutely zero ability to help people live in peace, but their skills in harming and torturing are unmatched.
Right.
By claiming that a person who cannot live with dignity no longer desires to stay in this world anyway, he just strips the state of its only real weapon.
The text reframes death from a tragic end into a spiritual transition. If death comes as a direct result of pursuing truth, kindness, beauty, love, and the greatest creator, Shuofeng calls it a perfect punctuation mark to the practitioner's journey.
A perfect punctuation mark.
Mm.
It is a strangely beautiful way to describe the end of a life under oppression.
It is. It's an assertion that the quality and dignity of one's life is vastly more important than the mere biological continuation of it.
But, the text is also very careful to draw a firm line regarding how that end comes about.
Yes, that's an important distinction.
It explicitly states that a practitioner cherishes life again, with a capital L, and will never actively seek death. There is absolutely no advocacy for self-harm or suicide.
None at all.
The practitioner wants to live, but they refuse to live on their knees.
The philosophy is grounded in a deep reverence for existence. The practitioner will endure the natural struggles of life, but they will not endure the artificial degradation imposed by an oppressor.
Right.
If pursuing a beautiful life of joy and freedom provokes the state to kill them, then death is simply the door opening to the next life space. There is nothing to fear.
And then, after all this lofty discussion of truth, kindness, beauty, love, and reverence for life,
Yeah.
the text takes a shockingly dark, aggressive turn at the very end. The imagery just gets brutal. Yu Feng writes, "Let the barbarians live, if they must. Civilized ones may perish. Go on living like maggots writhing in the filth of the latrine."
It is a jarring, violent shift in tone.
I physically reacted to reading that line. You go from this pursuit of the Elysium world, floating towards celestial islands, straight into a metaphor about maggots in a latrine.
It's a lot to take in.
It is visceral and shocking. It contrasts so sharply with the earlier focus on inner peace and cosmic beauty. So, why? Why would a spiritual manifesto end on such a violently disgusting metaphor?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it actually resolves the ultimate tension in Shui Feng's cosmic framework. The author profoundly believes in divine justice.
Okay.
The universe is a closed loop of cause and effect, and ultimately, cosmic law will sort everything out. If divine justice exists, the practitioners who are killed by the state ascend directly to heaven. They win. Their physical destruction is actually their spiritual liberation.
But what if divine justice doesn't intervene? What if the state just crushes them and that's the end of the story?
Even if that is the case, Shui Feng argues that a life without dignity, a life spent kneeling to a machine of suffering, is entirely devoid of value.
Right. So it wasn't worth living anyway.
Exactly. Therefore, the threat of death loses its power regardless. The truly fascinating part of this metaphor is how it views the survivors.
Barbarians.
Yes, those who oppress others and those who blindly comply with oppression just to survive, the people Shui Feng calls the barbarians, are the ones left behind. They get to stay alive, but they are surviving in a degraded, spiritually hollow state.
They are the maggots.
They are the maggots. The world they have built through compliance and oppression is the latrine.
So by surviving through submission, the oppressors and the willing slaves are actually the ones being eternally punished.
Exactly.
The practitioner escapes the escape room, moving on to the celestial islands, while the barbarians are left locked inside the filth of their own making.
It's a powerful flip of the script.
It really is. And the text closes with a final declaration to the entire universe. A practitioner will never kneel before barbarians, nor ever choose to become a slave to them. It's a permanent drawing of the line in the sand.
It is a cosmic rejection of the world as it currently operates.
So what does this all mean? We've traveled from the baseline desire for human dignity to the absolute, uncompromising rejection of the state, family, and society, all in the pursuit of celestial immortality.
It's a wild journey.
It is. This text is a fascinating study in ideological extremes. Shui Feng weaves the pursuit of heavenly paradises together with a fierce rejection of every worldly authority imaginable. If relationship binds you, you cut it off.
No hesitation.
Whether that's the expectations of your parents, the teachings of an academic, or the laws of an oppressive government, you submit to the universe and you submit to nothing else.
It is a radical, almost terrifying blueprint for absolute autonomy. But, it leaves us with something profound to consider regarding human nature and society. I'd like to pose a thought for you to mull over as we wrap up today.
Okay, let's hear it.
Imagine if every single person on Earth actually adopted Shui Feng's philosophy of absolute radical independence. If everyone refused all earthly authorities, dissolved family ties the moment they felt restrictive, and submitted only to invisible universal laws. Would that actually create the Elysium world on Earth?
Or would it trigger something much darker?
Exactly. Would it result in total societal collapse? If we sever every single tie that binds us to one another in the name of absolute spiritual freedom, do we ascend to paradise, or do we make the very concept of human civilization impossible?
That is a fascinating conflict.
Does true spiritual liberation require the destruction of the human community?
That is an incredibly heavy question to walk away with. Does saving your own soul mean burning down the village? Wow. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. It's analyzing texts like these that really forces us to look closely at the walls of our own escape rooms. Keep questioning the information around you. Keep examining the rules of the sandbox you're playing in, and we'll be here next time to unpack it all with you.